HandyGuy 2016 here. I'm working on my John Deere Z425 today, and what I'm wanting to do is make myself a chute blocker type of mulching attachment. It's getting close to fall, and I want to make an attachment where I can mulch up leaves for my customers that want their leaves mulched instead of bagged and taken away. So what I'm going to do, I've already pulled the pin for my chute attachment. I'm going to pull that off, take it out of the way. And a good rule of thumb whenever you're doing a metalwork project, a cardboard template is a really good way to go to figure out your curves and bends. So what I've done is taken this piece of cardboard and I got all of my bends and all of my curves and everything figured out with that piece of cardboard. And then on the back side of it, I've made notes on where my bends are at, where I need to extend it out, because there are a couple places where I could have left the cardboard longer, but it was easier just to go ahead and cut it off and then measure. So what I'm going to do is take this piece of diamond plate. It's just diamond tread steel. If you can see that very well, it's kind of rusty. But it's just a piece of scrap metal that I had from a previous project, actually from building the bumpers on my truck. And it's just a little bit thicker than the metal that the deck is made out of, which is, I don't know what gauge it is. It's close to an 1/8 inch thick. So what I'm going to do is lay this out, give myself room for my extension on my tabs, and I'm going to trace it out on this diamond plate. And then I've got a torch, but I think I'm about out of fuel on that, so I'll either go get my bottle filled up, or I will use my grinder, my hand grinder with the cutting disc on it, and cut this all out, get it cleaned up. I don't have a sheet metal brake, so usually what I can do is in my vise I can clamp a 2x4 on both sides of my bend in the vise and then bend it that way. I mean, this isn't a really big piece of metal, so I should be able to hand bend it. If not, I can always heat it up and bend it that way. But I will get this cut out and bent, get my holes drilled, and then put it on here and do another video of the finished product to show you how it turned out. So, okay, so I've taken my template and traced it all out on my steel, and I left myself some extra metal in a couple of places where I know that I might need a little extra when I start doing the finished product. So now I can get this cut out and bend my tabs, kind of get all my pieces bent, set it in place, and then I'll have to make some adjustments, I'm sure. The thing about it is, you know, I've got a pretty close shape of what it needs to be like. It probably saved me a lot of grinding and filing by doing this cardboard template. If I were to just start cutting pieces out of metal, there's no telling how much metal I would waste, not to mention all the extra cutting and grinding that I would have to do to make it fit. So this should be a pretty close fit, but we'll get it cut out and see how close we are. Okay, so I'm getting ready to cut out my piece that I've marked out with the torch, and then I'll do some touch-ups with the grinder wherever I need to. But I wanted to show you my little cutting stand. I have a really small shop, and so I have to have things where they're portable. I can't just have a welding table and cutting table set up all the time. So I took this old, it's a 14-inch steel wheel, and some square tube that I had just laying around in my scrap pile, and made myself a little cutting stand. And this works really well for my torch. Since this is just a scrap wheel, it doesn't matter if I cut into it, as long as I don't cut all the way through it. I mean, I can just chop on that thing all day. So it makes a nice little, waist high work table to do my cutting, where I don't have to be bent over to the ground, and I can just set it up outside here in the gravel and cut away. So let's get this thing cut out. Okay, got my piece cut out. That was interesting. I was literally running out of oxygen as I was finishing it up. I've got an oxygen propane torch set up, and these definitely aren't the prettiest cuts that I've ever made with the torch. It was getting pretty rough because I had such low oxygen pressure, but got the job done, so that should be good enough to clean it up a little bit and start doing some bending and see what I can figure out as far as how close it is to fitting. Okay, so I got my 2 main bends done, and the way I did that is I used these 2 pieces of angle iron in my vise, and I slid my piece of metal down in between that to the line where I wanted it to be bent at, and then ran my torch back and forth along the top of that angle iron until I had a nice thin hot line, red hot, and then I was able to bend that over pretty easily. And I've got some heavy welding gloves that I use to keep my hands from getting too hot. So that's how I got those bends done. I just had to bend my tabs and drill some holes, and I should be able to put it on and see how it works. Okay, so I got it all finished up, and this is what I came up with. Let's see if I can put this on here with one hand. There we go, just like that. And then I'll just slide my pin through. Okay. And there we go. And I actually got to use this a little bit the other day when I was doing a yard that had a lot of trees. Leaves were already falling. That's why my mower's all filthy, but it worked out really nice, actually. It mulched up the leaves great. The grass clippings were thick in places. It mulched those up great, so it's going to work really well for me. And I also made this. I've been needing a hitch for my mower, so when leaf season comes and I have my pull behind vacuum, that'll fit right on there. Sticks out about 4 inches, so I'll have to see how badly that gets in the way, but it's just 1 bolt, so if it's in the way too much, I can always unbolt it in the off season. But all I did was take a piece of angle iron and this piece of 1/4 inch flat stock, 1/4 inch by 2 inch, and welded it on there, so it should fit on there really nice and keep that dude in place. So anyways, there we go. Hope you guys enjoyed and got some ideas for your next project.